few little bits and pieces for speaking. So the first thing we're going to look at is what happens if types of situations. So I'm going to just give you a couple of scenarios where if you're not sure what to do, here are some suggestions. We're going to also be looking at some useful expressions. We're going to be looking at lexical resource, which is one of the 4 categories you'll be marked on. And then we will look at some of the language that a band 8 person received when they did their speaking for part 2. Okay, let's get started. All right, what happens if, number 1 scenario, I don't understand a word or a phrase? What happens if I don't understand a word or a phrase in the question that the examiner gives me? What can we do? Any ideas? Ask.
Yeah.
All right.
Hello.
So easy, right? We just ask. So whenever we're not sure, it's better to ask what a particular word means. Otherwise, we could actually be giving all the wrong information for that question. All right. So could you please explain that word? And then if you get the word such as festival, you still don't know what that means, you could say, does that mean, just to clarify with the examiner, does that mean, hello, Mark.
Hello.
Does that mean like celebration? Okay, so you can ask if the word is similar to another word. In other words, like a synonym. Oh, goodness, that's a pretty small example at the top. The examiner, do you usually go to festivals in your town? Candidate says, sorry, could you please explain that word? Or you could say festival, does that mean like celebration? Another way we could use our language to clarify what something means is just to say, I'm not quite sure what that means, but I'm assuming it means, and then you can go on to finish your sentence. Okay, so it's going to be quite likely that some of the words that the examiner uses are not familiar to you, so you do need to be confident enough to ask them to clarify or explain the meaning. Okay, what happens if, next scenario, I can't think of anything else to say during part 2? All right, what do? You shouldn't stop talking. You need to keep talking if possible. All right, even if what you are saying is not completely relevant, the examiner just wants to hear you speak. Okay, so why does it matter if it's not completely relevant? Why do you think it's okay if what you're talking about is not relevant? Is it okay to say irrelevant things? That's my question to you. Is it okay if the examiner asks you about festivals and you start talking about public holidays, for example? Is it okay? Huh? How many of you think it is okay?
It's not okay.
Mark and Virasada, do you think it's okay?
I think it's not okay.
To say a few other things which are not relevant?
Because it should be the...
Mark and Virasada, you type your answers in because I can't hear you. Okay, guys, I can't hear you.
No.
Okay.
Okay, it's interesting. So you're saying that it's not okay to say irrelevant things. Well, I've got some good news for you, everybody. Got some great news. It is okay to go slightly off topic. It is okay for you to say things which are not entirely relevant. Now, when I say this with caution, because obviously if you're given a topic in part 2 and you talk about something different, That's not okay. All right. But in IELTS speaking, it's perfectly normal for you to mention things that are not directly related to the question. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you guys understand?
Yep.
So it's very different from writing. Writing, you cannot go off topic. You cannot say irrelevant things. Then your mark will be affected. It's very important that you follow, that you follow the topic in the writing. Okay, so say for example in the speaking, you are asked to talk about a festival in your hometown or your city. You are asked to talk about a festival. All right, let's say you don't really know a festival in your city. Okay, so you're going to talk about a public holiday instead. Now, festival and holiday, not the same, but similar. Okay, now when I'm talking about irrelevant things, right, your question may be talk about a festival, and then you start talking about something you did the last time you had a public holiday, something that you did the last time you had a public holiday. This is okay. All right, so what I'm saying is, to go back, it is important to keep talking. This is the most important thing. If you can't think of anything to say about the topic, it doesn't matter. Keep talking, even if it is slightly off topic.
Okay.
Do you all follow?
Yes.
Does everybody, does everyone follow what I'm saying about the speaking? It doesn't always matter.
Yes.
The examiner's not going to
understand. I'm following.
Big question, therefore I'm going to mark them down. No, the examiner only wants to hear you speak.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a strategy that you can use if you can't keep talking about the topic that you have been given. Okay, so that's what you would do if you can't think of anything else to say during part 2. Scenario number 3, what happens when you are very, sorry, background noise there. What happens if you are very nervous?
Nervous.
All right, every single person that sits the IELTS test is nervous. Every single person. Yeah. If you sit the IELTS test and you're not nervous, then there's something strange about you, right? Because every single person that sits the IELTS test will be nervous. The examiner does not mark you down for being nervous, okay? The examiner is not going to give you a lower score because you are nervous. However, it's important to remember that even when you are nervous, you can still talk, all right? You can still talk, but your voice is a bit shaky or a bit not confident like it would normally be. But that's okay. This is normal. This is normal for people to be nervous, and it's normal for people's voices to be shaky and sort of a bit wavy. Okay? So I want to reassure you all that when you are nervous and you don't think that you're doing a very good job, just be reassured that everybody gets nervous, and the examiner is expecting you to be nervous. I can see some people are just typing some comments in, so I'll just wait and see what they say. Okay. Can you stand up? I've never seen anyone stand up, I'll be honest. I think the answer would have to be no, that you would probably need to remain sitting. It's a good suggestion though. Yeah, no, that's right. Pronouncing words definitely matters. Pronouncing words correctly, obviously will affect your score. Now, if you mispronounce a word because you're nervous, if you recognize that you've so you read it, you correct yourself. Okay, so even when you're nervous, you can still pronounce okay.
Yeah.
Right. Mispronunciation is really not always about nervousness, but it can happen. If you suddenly realize that you have mispronounced a word, then don't be afraid to go and just correct it and say the word again correctly. Any questions there? Okay. All right, got it. Okay, so let's move on to the next part of the lesson, which is just teaching you some expressions for different situations. So let's think about the expressions that we might need for explaining things. All right, so let's say that you are trying to explain why there is a lot of traffic in your city. A good way to start is by saying the main reason why, or the reason why. So this is explaining something, using the word why, the reason why, the main reason why there is much traffic in the city is lack of road and it should be proper public transportation. Okay, another phrase that you could use would be most importantly. If you're trying to emphasize something that's important, you can say most importantly. If you're coming to the end of what you're saying, you can say last but not least. And then if you are just wanting to give a little bit of an opinion there, you can say my impression is that. Okay, let's move on to the next set of expressions. Now, expressions for giving opinions. There are a lot of different expressions that you can use. But let's say you're given a question where you've never had to think about it or talk about it, even in your own language. You can start by saying, I've never thought about this question much before, but it seems to me that, okay? It seems to me is the expression part which gives the opinion. It seems to me that there ought to be some facilities for senior citizens such as free medication. Okay, so I've never thought about this question much before. It's a good way to introduce your thought if it's something that you're not familiar with. Okay, just some really common ones, obviously, that you probably already know. In my opinion, in my view, personally, I think, I believe, to my mind. This is one that I really, really, really recommend that you use. It's this one, as far as I'm concerned. As far as I am concerned, or as far as I'm concerned. It's a really good one. As far as I'm concerned. It means, in my opinion. So it's a really good one to use. It's common, but at the same time, it's slightly academic, and it is a higher level of English when you're using it. Good question, Martina. Can we use contractions? Yes, you can always use contractions in speaking. Not in writing, but in speaking.
It's more of a speech. This is
In
like
fact,
this is
probably
speaking.
better to use contractions because then it's a little bit more natural. So remember, not in writing. Writing, they want you to be writing more academically without contractions, but definitely in speaking. Contractions, I am, I'm. All right. As far as I'm concerned, I'm. Okay. All right. Let's move on to think about comparing and contrasting. Okay, when you've been asked to compare or contrast something, I don't know if it's common or not in the IELTS speaking, but let's say you want to be talking about the benefits or the disadvantages of something. Okay, so we can just use our verb compare. When I compare something, 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 when I compare, let's say Auckland and
something.
when I compare, let's say can't think of anything. Nike and Adidas, right? So just using the verb compare. Oh, okay. Ah, yes, Louise, if the pronunciation is right, yeah, but contractions are pretty easy. Yeah, what's happening with the microphones? I can't hear anything. I'm very lucky. Other people, maybe put your microphone on mute. Okay, it's that button down the bottom there. Yeah, good point. Okay, so that's a nice, easy one to use for people who are not too confident with complex sentences. Okay, another way of saying comparisons or contrasting. Emails and memos can be equally effective as a means of communication. Okay, so here we have effective as the adjective, equally effective. So equally gives the idea of not one or the other is better. Okay, they are equally effective. They are equally expensive. They are equally delicious. They are equally hardworking. All right, they are equally talkative. So that's when you're talking about things being the same. Okay, we've got some other very simple ones here. But, while, whereas. Communication by fax is almost instant, whereas letters can take days to arrive. Communication by fax is almost instant, while letters can take days to arrive. Communication by fax is almost instant, but letters can take days to arrive. Okay, nice simple ones there. I like this one here equally. Okay, so some expressions for exemplifying, for giving examples. Why do we need to give examples? Examples are great. They're great for speaking. Why? Can you give me one reason why examples are really good strategies for speaking? Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Keeps the conversation going. Keep talking, keep talking, keep talking. To prove your point? Yep. Confident? Yep, definitely. To point out the topic? Yes, yep. Gives more information, and it's absolutely vital that we know how to develop our topics. When we are given a topic, especially in part 2 of the long term part, then if you are giving examples throughout, it's great because it just shows that we are able to dig deeper and give more information about a certain topic. All right, so here's some nice language for you to use. Consider. Consider, for example. So it's a bit like saying, I want you to think about. I want you to think about. And then, for example, consider, let's see, for example, consider the vaccination, for example. You know, do you think the vaccination is a good way of helping COVID-19? Another way of giving an example is just to use take and then the noun, take something as an example of something. Take the vaccination as an example of trying to control COVID-19. Take the vaccination as one example of COVID-19. Another way of giving an expression giving an example is in the case of. In the case of, this is quite a good one to use, in the case of plus noun. And then just our usual for instance or for example, industrial factories have to be displaced to remote areas. For example, for instance. Another on its own, Luis, is not what we would consider a linking device on its own. You might want to say another example or another something. So always use it with a noun. Another another example, another point, another issue, rather than on its own. Yeah. Okay, are there any questions at this point? All good? Any questions? All good? Okay. Bring an example. No, not in English, not bringing it, not bring, but give. Give or provide. Yeah. Okay, good point. All right. So we've covered so far, we have covered different scenarios in the speaking test, then we've covered some different expressions. Now we're going to have a look at one of the band descriptors, which is vocabularies, or also called lexical resource. So a couple of weeks ago, we looked at fluency and cohesion, or last week we looked at fluency and cohesion. Tonight we're looking at vocabulary. Okay, so for those of you that don't know what the band descriptors are, they are on the internet. Just have a look up for band descriptors IELTS speaking, and you'll get the whole 1 to 9 and all the different 4 skills there. Tonight we're looking at what's called vocabulary or lexical resource. All right, so for those of you that think you have a pretty good vocabulary range, I'm going to show you what you would need to do to be able to get a 9 or an 8 or a 7 in the lexical resource of the speaking test, which is worth 25% of your score. Okay, let's start with a 9. You can see that there are only 2 features here. So it shows that, you know, as you become more and more proficient, competent at using English, basically you are able to be completely flexible with your vocabulary, flexible and precise. What does precise mean? Precise. What do you think precise means? Exact. Okay. So if I say to you, can you describe okay, how would you describe, use the correct word in the correct moment. So how would you describe COVID-19 at the moment? Can you give me a phrase or an expression or a word? How would you describe COVID-19 right now? Yeah. It is a pandemic. Yep, good. It's a pandemic. So that is one word. Okay, pandemic situation. Yep, global pandemic. And I like that. Global, that's bringing it into a little bit more precision and a bit more detail. Okay, so this is the sort of thing that we're talking about with precision. Okay, viral pandemic. Good, Martina. So if you are able to talk about any topic, okay, and I'm talking about any topic that you're given with precision and flexibility, then you are going to score very highly here in vocabulary. Okay, most native speakers can do, native speakers, when I talk about native speakers, I'm talking about people from South Africa or India whose first language is English, all right, are usually able to do this very well. So obviously, I think that if you're still translating a little bit from your mother tongue, like your first language is Spanish, over to English, the chances are that you won't have full flexibility yet. Okay, so if we ask Luis, for example, you're from Chile, Luis, do you think that you are able to think about English expressions in English influenced by your Spanish language, or are you now feeling more confident about English expressions because you've learnt them as English expressions? I'm not sure if I make sense. Basically, they're expressions that you would learn from other native speakers rather than translating them over from your own language. Yeah, yeah. Okay. I mean, obviously, a 9 is extremely high. Not everybody is a 9. They want to just get over a 6. So just to show you anyway, the other feature is that you can use idiomatic language naturally and accurately. Okay, so who can give me an example of an idiom? I'm going to give you one right now. You may have heard of this one. Ah, yes, give someone a cold shoulder. Raining cats and dogs. Yeah, those idioms are they are the same. They've been the same for decades and decades and decades. The one that I gave you, my bad, right? What do you think it means? My mistake, my fault. Okay, but it's really like it's in the last 2 years, maybe 3 years. My bad. Okay, it's a bit like saying, "Oh, my mistake." Now, this is what we call an idiom, and it's constantly changing in our language. You know, we get new idioms all the time. So if you are familiar with new idioms and old idioms like cats and dogs, raining cats and dogs, that's perfectly fine. But the really competent users, the ones that are, really modern, we could say, are able to do this pretty well. Okay. Good as gold. Yes, that's a nice one, Mark. Good as gold. Okay, let's have a look at the 8, because that one is possibly a little bit more doable for some of us. So starting with the first feature, uses a wide vocabulary resource readily and flexibly to convey precise meaning. That's slightly different from a 9. The 9 is full flexibility. The 8 is a wide vocabulary resource. Okay, so that means that you can talk about lots of different topics readily. All right, so if you get given a question, you're not you're actually able to bring out those words that are related to the topic. Also for an 8, uses less common and idiomatic vocabulary skillfully with occasional inaccuracy. So here for an 8, you can make mistakes with your vocabulary. You're allowed to make some occasional mistakes, all right? So not expecting you to be perfect in the vocabulary area, you can make mistakes. The last one is uses paraphrase effectively as required. Now, this is a really important feature, right? Paraphrase. I'm hoping that everybody either knows it or can find out what it means at some point. It's something that everyone should know how to do, especially for writing and speaking. It's a very, very useful skill to say something in a different way, isn't it? Say the same thing, but in a different way. Reword sentences. Yep, right. Okay, so paraphrasing. So the examiner might give you a question such as, when did you last go to the movies? Okay, a simple question like, when did you last go to the movies? Instead of you saying, I last went to the movies, what could you say? How could you paraphrase that? Multiple users are typing. Good, so everyone's got something to say there. My last visit. Very nice, Randy. Yeah. My last visit to theatre. Yeah. Paraphrasing. Okay, so paraphrasing is saying it in a different way. Yep, went to the movies last time. Okay. All right, so maybe my example wasn't the best one, but basically try not to repeat what the examiner has said. Use some of your own language to show them what you know. Okay, so that's for an 8. Now, for a 7, everything is the same, but not as often. All right. Uses vocabulary resource flexibly to discuss a variety of topics. All right, so you can talk about many topics, not all topics, but many topics. You can still use less common and idiomatic vocabulary, and you can show some awareness of style and collocation. So style and collocation is a really, really important word, all right, that I think everybody should know or find out for themselves. Collocation. When words go together, some words don't go together and some words do go together, all right? So I want you to tell me how you would describe an orange, all right? How would you describe an orange that tastes good? Can you think of some adjectives to describe an orange? Now, some of you may not even think, I don't know any words to describe an orange, maybe just delicious. Yep, good. Yep, Mandarin. yeah. Okay, now, fresh. Now, I want you to use an adjective. Nezra, now you've hit the nail on the head, so I'm going to take your example. Juicy. Okay, here is the collocation. Juicy orange. Okay, juicy cannot go with lots of different words. It goes with orange, but it might not go with sandwich. Why doesn't it go with sandwich? It goes with orange, it goes with peach, it goes with nectarine. Why? Good. Juice. It's giving juice, right? So it's got that element of liquid. Right. Good. Okay, can you think of another word? So this is when I'm asking for something a little bit higher vocabulary. Who can think of the word that starts with S-U-C? Oh, very good, Nesrin. Succulent. Succulent means very juicy. Okay, so a succulent orange, a juicy orange, these are collocations which can be used to really show that you know that your level of vocabulary is higher, we could say, than a 6. Okay, all right, so that's what I'm talking about with collocations. All right, collocations are words that go together. We wouldn't say, for example, big. We wouldn't say big disease to talk about around the world. We would say global disease. Oh, sorry, my spelling. Or worldwide disease. Okay, worldwide disease. That's a collocation. So it's just knowing which words go with which words. Okay, so that takes us to, so that's the 9, the 8, and the 7. Are there any questions at the moment about vocabulary for those higher scores? Any questions? Yes. Raul. An idiom? Sure. Off the top of my head? So the expression that I'm using, the idiom that I'm using here is off the top of my head. What that means is just right now in this situation, this moment, I can't. But I've already used one which is off the top of my head. I can't think of anything. An idiom is a phrase, an expression. You may have the same in your language, but it will probably never ever be word for word translated, right? Okay, do you guys know how to say something like at the end of the day? Do you know what at the end of the day means?
Vina. Vina.
Oh, call it a day. That's a good one. It's not the same as at the end of the day, though. I'll talk about call it a day in a moment. At the end of the day means at the end, right? It means at the end or in conclusion or the bottom line. Now, call it a day means to finish through. Call it a day is when you finish something. So, for example, when we finish the lesson tonight at 8 o'clock, I will say, let's call it a day. Does that answer your question, Raoul? Yeah. All right, great. Okay, let's move on. Now, here is some URL links which you can take a photo of. I've just been trying to do a little bit of research to find out where you could actually just get a bit more practice with your idioms. So take a screenshot, take a photo, guys, of these URLs. And I think probably once you click into these websites, you'll probably see some more that you can do after. The problem is with this big blue button, I can't copy and paste. It's a bit different from Zoom. Zoom, you can do a lot of live actions, but with big blue button, I can't. So I'm really sorry. If you could just take a photo. Yeah, I'm not sure. I wish I could. All good. Okay. Everyone done? Okay. So remember, try to use some idioms. Try to use some collocations. All good, Sue? Okay. All right, so the last thing we're going to do tonight is we're just going to have a look at some of the language that a Band 8 student got in terms of their vocabulary. Okay. Well, they probably got a Band 8 overall, but we're not going to be listening to him. We're just going to be looking at some of the language that he used. Okay, you can find this on Fry English, which is quite a good website for different examples. Okay, so the long-term question that he has been given is describe a company that you know, and he needs to talk about what the company does and how he knows about it. Okay, so that's his topic. All right, we're going to start with just looking at some of his vocabulary in the bold, all right? And then we can just have a look at how he's used his idioms or collocations, if you like, to make his score go up. Yeah. This one, Thu, or the next one? Sure. Okay, so starting with, just have a quick read, if you could, just of how he starts his long turn, part 2. Paperwork and daily meetings, which last for 2 hours every day, have always been my nightmare ever since I started thinking about my future career. It's an unavoidable reality that you have to deal with once choosing an office life which is why I find myself lucky to be able to land a job at XYZ, hasn't said the name of the company, where I have been working in marketing departments since graduating and absolutely love it. Okay, so this is not a perfect score because there are some mistakes with this, so don't think that this was written by a native speaker. This is a non-native speaker. But what you can see here is an example of a collocation and an idiom, all right? Land a job. What do you think it means? All right, next one, give a job. Okay, get a job. Okay, that's what it is. Good job, Mark and Raul. It's to get a job, right? To be offered a job, that's right. To get a job. Land a job. Now, this is very colloquial, very, very kind of idiomatic, okay? So you would not use this in writing. All right, this is only for speaking that we have the freedom to use colloquial language. Okay. Office life, unavoidable reality. These are collocations. They're not idioms. They're just collocations. Unavoidable reality, office life. Okay, so here you've got an adjective plus a noun. Here you've got a noun and a noun. So collocations can be nouns and nouns together. All good? Okay. All right, let's have another look here. So our team is small, but it doesn't affect our productivity. In fact, due to the limited number of members, we know each other pretty well, which enhances mutual understanding, collaboration, and flexibility. All right, so they've used this nice collocation here, enhances mutual understanding. We've got the verb enhance, and then adjective, and then noun. Okay, enhances mutual understanding. What does enhance mean? Boost, good. Make better, good. Improve, good. Excellent. What about mutual? Common. Yep. Same. Between two people, mutual. All right. Yeah. So connected to each other. Mutual understanding, collaboration, and flexibility. Okay. Great. Any questions about the words there? I can see quite a few people typing, so I just want to wait and see what people want to say. Okay. All right. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about with idiomatic language or collocations. More than one word that goes to that more than one word together. The question was to explain an office, right? Can we start introducing the office and how we came to it? Yes. Yeah. This is the good thing about speaking, is that the examiner is not going to be sitting there thinking, oh, it's off topic, or oh, that's not quite the question, or oh, that's not relevant. No. However you want to get to the topic is up to you. All right. You can give some background information, all right, but you probably need to actually say that before you start talking. So you could start by saying, to give you a bit of background. So you could preface it by saying, yeah, I'm going to give you a bit of background to this topic first. Does that make sense, Arandi? Just maybe explain what you're doing, and that way it's always clear for people to follow. Okay, let's move on to some more. We've got a really long one here. Instead of having long hour meetings, we do a 15-minute session every morning to keep everyone in the loop. Ooh, keep everyone in the loop about what others are doing and the progression of ongoing projects, so people may offer help, if any. Keep everyone in the loop. Do you know what this means? Informed, well done, yes. To keep people informed, involved, updated, well done, Martina. Yeah, keep everyone in the loop is such a good expression because, you know, it's modern and it's relevant and everybody knows it. Native speakers know it. Okay, well done. Ongoing projects, here we have an example of just a nice collocation. Ongoing, so using this as an adjective to describe something that's continuous. Ongoing projects. All right, efficient and truly appreciate. All right, truly appreciate. Not just appreciate, but truly appreciate. So boosting our language a little bit by using some more adjectives, adverbs. Are there any questions there? All good? All righty, cool. All good, great. Okay, let's go back. Let's have a look at some more language. Yeah, it is. It's just like a boosting word. It means really. It's like truly, really. Truly, really. Yep, or very. So remember, a superlative, Luis, in English is something like the best or highest is a superlative. That's the meaning of superlative there. Okay, so moving on now, we can see here that we've got a couple of idioms here. I had worked here as an intern before going official. All right, going official. Now we think about going as a word where we're going somewhere, right? Like movement, like moving, walking, running. What does it actually mean in this sentence? Before going official. I had worked here as an intern before going official. Permanent role. Good. Yes, excellent. Okay, it's to be hired. Yeah. Okay, it's quite a difficult word to use in this context to go and then plus adjective. We wouldn't use it very often, so that's why I don't want you to think that you can use go, you know, going plus adjective everywhere. No, it's basically just for very set situations. So going official is one of them. Therefore, I had time to adapt to a new environment, get used to unfamiliar concepts I had never encountered in school, as well as sharpen other skills. So I want to have a look here at sharpen other skills. What do you think this means, to sharpen your skills? What do we normally sharpen? Not quite. Strengthen, master. Yeah. What do we normally sharpen? So the verb sharpen, there's something that we normally, what does it mean? Yes, knife. Okay, or pencil. Good. To make it sharp, to make it, you know, like that. That's what it really means, the literal meaning. Okay, well done. Any other words in the text here that you'd like to know what they mean? Any other questions? Adapt, unfamiliar, concepts. Everyone okay with those words? Ameli, Arandi, Guaraf, Jaswinda, Lanian. Any questions? Encountered. Okay. It means to come across, to meet. It's quite different from Spanish. Well, in Spanish it's the same, right? To meet a person, but to encounter something is to come up against, to experience is another word. Yep, could be a situation, a concept could be a situation, or an idea, or a, you know, a concept can be, it's usually an idea, that the synonym is idea. So we'll leave it at that, eh? Concept is idea. All right, we have come to the end of the lesson, so we're going to call it a day soon. Here's a quick quiz. I've got I've got 4 missing words for you, 5 missing words for you. So the first one, if you are not something about a word or phrase, it is okay to ask what it's something. So who wants to be, very good. Okay, if you are not sure about a word or phrase, it is okay to ask what it means. Good. Number 2, everyone gets marks on the ball. Nervous, so don't worry. The examiner expects that. Well done. Nervous. All right. And high vocabulary scores are more possible when you use less. Oh, no, but the word is less, so don't think of, so I will take you back and show you where it talks about that, but less something expression. Common, very good. Yes, that's right, Randy, you can ask them to explain a word or a phrase. Okay, so the word here is common, less common expressions, or words. Okay, less common expressions or words. This is what I was talking about before, just in the there it is. Okay, so uses some less common and idiomatic vocabulary. Okay, so less don't all the time. So it's just competent users know how to use the less common ones. All right, well done, everybody. Are there any questions at this stage? Did you learn anything new today, guys? Great. Okay. Yes, it is, too. It's an ongoing IELTS lessons. I do speaking and I do reading, and there's another teacher who does writing. So at this stage, I don't think we've got the listening running yet, but I'm sure that will be coming soon. Okay, so hopefully, no, it's not every day. No. At the moment, I think it's like 2 times a week, 3 times a week. Oh, you missed the reading today. Okay, okay. Martina, I'll answer your question first. Martina, if one of the websites that I really like is IELTS Mentor. That is a really good website for all the skills. They have lots and lots of practice tests there. That's one that I would recommend. There are lots of IELTS websites, lots of materials. Well, when we talk about updated, it's an interesting concept because IELTS, when we talk about updated, that is completely confidential. So IELTS, Cambridge IELTS don't ever publish publicly what they're going to be giving for topics. So I can't say whether that's, I wouldn't be able to say whether the topics are updated or not. I don't think it matters. It doesn't, if there's a change in anything with the test, yes, then we are always informed. But basically, if you just get a reading with 40 questions, that's still useful. So I'm not sure if that answers your question. Topics are always changing anyway in the IELTS test, especially for speaking. They changed Oh, yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure that our manager is arranging for that to happen. I know right now that it's being recorded. So I think the best thing to do is try and make contact with Morshed, our manager. Our manager is Morshed, and he will be able to give you information about the video, because I'm not 100% sure where to find it. Mark, no sound. What do you mean? Mark? Yep, I do know. Let me just write out his email. Marketing. That's Auckland number. Yes. Yes, they do. They make it clear when they need to move on to the next question. Definitely. Yes. Yes. They're not going to say to you, you're talking too much, but they're going to indicate that they need to move on to a new question. Will that affect the mark? To be honest, it's better to speak more than less. That's what I would answer to that question. You would never get marked down for talking too much, okay? But you will lose marks for not talking enough. That's how I would put it. Is that clear? Okay, great. Okay, great. Thanks, guys. All right, well, we'll see you next week. You'll get an invitation to tell you what day and time. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. No problem. Okay, great. All right. Yep, you too. Have a good week. Bye-bye. I'm waving at the chat box. I should be waving at the camera. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Have a good weekend and a good week. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you very much.